This is a 2022 Genesis G70 3.3T with all-wheel drive, the smallest sedan of the new premium brand, which is a division of the Korean automaker Hyundai. The G70 was launched in the US in 2019. For 2022, it gets a mid-cycle update that includes new front and rear styling and a few other small updates. Unchanged is the ability to play the value card, just like Hyundai, even while competing in the premium car space. My name is Robin Warner, an experienced engineer and magazine editor, and my stubble is like the genesis of facial hair.
Adds value for your dollar right there.
This G70 3.3T with all-wheel drive is equipped with the base package, which means you go without wireless smartphone charging, ventilated front seats, and a head-up display. But it does have the top powertrain, which is a twin turbocharged 3.3-liter V6 that delivers a peak 365 horsepower and 376 pound-feet of torque. That power goes through an 8-speed automatic transmission and onto all four wheels. The base price for the 2022 Genesis G70 3.3T all-wheel drive is $45,245, and my test car cost $45,745. For those that are interested, I included detailed specifications, including dimensions, fuel economy, and options in the description. All right, let's take a look around the car. All right, here it is, the 2022 mid-cycle updated Genesis G70 3.3T with all-wheel drive, and this particular one is painted in Adriatic blue paint, which is a $500 optional color. As I said, it's a mid-cycle refresh, which means you do get updated front and rear styling. Mainly, that means you get this signature crest grille, and I say signature because it's something that they introduced in the 2021 G80 and GV80. You also have these quad headlamps, which is dual headlamps up here, a little bit of body, and dual headlamps down here. Unchanged is the Genesis logo, and it's got this kind of like faux carbon fiber kind of look behind the Genesis name right there. This is an aluminum hood right here, and underneath it are aluminum strut tower braces that go from the shock towers from here to the front, and I'll show you a picture of that right here. Looking at the car in profile, you've got the classic performance sedan shape, long hood, heavily raked windshield, sloped fastback kind of shape into the trunk. And I think that Genesis did a great job with this. It's simple, clean lines, it's sleek, it's got some like bold character built in with some fender flares here, a nice character line that runs along just above the door handles here to the back. I like the window trim treatment here, which contrasts the blue really nicely. And I like these 19-inch aluminum wheels. They fill the wheel well nicely, they look sharp, and they look appropriate for a performance sedan. This little treatment right here is a nice touch, looks cool, and it's sort of quasi-matched back here as well, though this is not vented or anything. That's just plastic inserts in here. And the back gets a similar clean shape. You also get these quad tip headlights here with a bit of bodywork in between, dual. I do think they did a good job with a subtle molded in rear spoiler, though I'm a little bit less pleased with these faux exhaust tips down here. Those are fake, but it's not bad. The real tips are right there hanging out, and that's true on both sides. And you also get some faux diffuser treatment down low. Anyway, let's take a look inside the car. Okay, I am going to start with trunk space like I like to do, and usually I start by releasing the trunk with a key fob to show you that, but I'm not doing that this time because this has something called auto trunk release, where all you have to do is walk up close to the car and stay here for a few seconds, and it'll open on its own. Now that's something you can turn on and off with the center console touchscreen, and of course, as you can see, I have it turned on. With the trunk open, you have a decent amount of space. Nothing major here, but it's 11 cubic feet of space, and it's nicely laid out. You got extra space there, a little bit of extra space here, and a nice cargo net down here. And the seats are folding, so if you need to carry more stuff, just fold the seats down here and here, and then you have that much space. But all right, let's take a look in back. Now this is actually, these days at least, a pretty small car, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that once we get on the drive. But that being the case, this is a very nice looking interior, and these are very comfortable seats. Legroom is a little bit pinched, but I've got a couple inches of knee room, and the seat bottom is a little bit on the low side, but thigh support isn't bad considering, and I've got just barely enough headroom. I'd say I have about an 1/8 of an inch or a 1/16 of an inch of headroom. Let's just go and say a millimeter or two. Also, if you don't have 3 passengers back here, you do get center armrest and cup holders, and I have to say, lovely cup holders. I like these little bevels around the cup holder rim. Also, folks, down here do get some charging options with the USB port right there. Finally, if you don't have a front passenger and you want a bit more legroom, you can actually adjust it right here. That's always fun, and I'm sure parents will love that option for their kids in back. Anyway, let's go to the front. All right, we've got the usual things on the door: power windows, side view mirror adjustment, power locks, 2-position seat memory. We do have a bottle holder and some space down here. We've got a nice Genesis kick plate right here. These are 12-way adjustable power seats, and that is both the driver and passenger front seats. And over here we have some adjustment for the instrument cluster lighting, the fuel door, and the trunk opening. This does have tilt and telescoping adjustment right here. It is also powered. This is the Dune color interior, and I have to say, I think it contrasts the Adriatic blue exterior paint really nicely, and I'm actually just happy that it's not a black interior, which has become so common these days, so it's nice to just have a change of pace. Push button start. Now this is actually pretty interesting, okay? You've got a real speedometer and fuel gauge right there, speedometer, fuel gauge, but then you've got a 7-inch display screen right here, so that tachometer right there, that's fake. That's a digital tachometer right there with a digital needle and everything. Then you get speed there in front, and of course you can adjust the screen a little bit as you wish, and as you can see, it is properly winter here in Michigan. Steering wheel has lots of buttons and options on it, volume adjustment, those types of things. And then also you do have adaptive cruise control right here, and this is an 8-speed automatic with paddle shifters, upshift here, downshift right there. Looking over here, that is new for 2022, a 10.25 inch touchscreen, 10.25 inches. That is up from the previous models, which was an 8-inch screen right here. And I'll show you more of what's in here in just a moment. Beneath that, you have, buttons to control the touchscreen right here. You do have a separate power button and volume knob right here. You do get dual zone climate control right here, and standard on the Genesis G70, heated steering wheel, heated seats for the passenger and driver. But the Sport Advance and Sport Prestige models also get ventilated seats. They get a lot of other options like that, like they get a wireless smartphone charging, which this car does not have. But you do have multiple charging ports down here, as well as a USB plug-in, and that's for Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You do have it, but it is wired, but you do get wireless Bluetooth if you want that. Pretty standard shift prindle right here, but the park is a push button right there. You do get drive modes. I'll show you more of that in just a minute. Auto hold, that's your reverse camera look at, and this turns off stability control if you want. And yes, it is an electric parking brake. I do like these cup holders with that same bevel rim around that we saw in back, and pretty standard lower center console storage, and there is an additional USB port right there. I'll put some light on it right there. Looking up, you do get a sunglass holder and some lighting options right here, but this being the base model, we do not have any kind of moonroof. Okay, drive modes. You get 5 drive modes. They are Eco, Comfort, Sport, Sport Plus, and Custom. Now, to show you Custom, I'll also show you a little bit about the center console touchscreen. It's a really nicely laid out screen. So this is kind of like your home screen, and it gives you some basic information right there. All you have to do to get to other stuff is just slide it like this, and you get a nice menu of things. You also have a home button and some other options here, but as you can see, you have a lot of options right here on this screen, and then scroll again, it's just a few more things. But to get to the drive modes, you go to Setup, you go to Vehicle, then you go to Drive Mode, then Custom, and you can see how I've got it set up. Now, you do not have adjustable suspension in this base trim, so I've got the powertrain set up to its slowest throttle map, so it's closer to a linear throttle map, but I have the stiffest steering and the all-wheel drive system in Sport, which helps get a little bit more power to the rear axle a little bit faster. But then we also have another neat little trick here. This has the sounds of nature, which is something that I saw first actually in the Hyundai Elantra, but it's just a nice little like relaxing kind of thing. Mercedes also has something way more elaborate than this, which is super cool. But this is like just a nice simple thing to just kind of bring a little bit of calm into your world, especially if you're on a hectic commute. A warm fireplace sounds about as good as anything, but you also have open air cafe, rainy day, calm sea waves, and a lively forest. But my personal favorite is the warm fireplace. But it's not time for a warm fireplace calming right now. It's time to get a little excited because I want to see how this V6 performs. Let's go for a drive. Hi everybody. Well, very excited to be driving this mid-cycle updated 2022 Genesis G70 3.3T with all-wheel drive because, well, it's a performance sedan. It's a sports sedan, a compact sports sedan, and that is just right in the center of the wheelhouse of most driver enthusiasts. You know, lighter, not very light, but lighter, smaller, good handling, good precise inputs, nice linear outputs, just fun to drive practical vehicle. But I would actually like to start with an interesting fact. Did you know that this Genesis, this performance sedan, compact sports sedan, is actually very close in size to the Hyundai Elantra? So yeah, they're really close. So if you look at the Hyundai Elantra, which is their compact sedan, and this, the measurements line up very closely, except for wheelbase. This has a much longer wheelbase than that Hyundai. And obviously there are some performance differences and some driving differences, but size-wise. So fun fact. Now, when it comes to performance differences, a big part of that is this powertrain. And it's actually really fascinating because this Genesis, in terms of packages and equipment and luxuries and that kind of thing, this is the base model, okay? You don't have a lot of the extra add-ons, like I mentioned earlier, the head-up display, smartphone charging, etc., etc. There's a lot of stuff like that. But in terms of powertrain, this is more or less as good as you can get. It's the 3.3-liter turbo V6 and it's all-wheel drive. Now you could argue what's really better, all-wheel drive versus rear-wheel drive. The important thing is that this is a rear-wheel drive based all-wheel drive system, and that when you live in Michigan and it's January, all-wheel drive is a helpful thing. Now, this isn't actually quite as powerful as the Sport Advanced and Sport Prestige versions of this G70, as they get a variable exhaust system, which ups peak performance by 3 horsepower. So you get 368 horsepower instead of 365. However, same peaks, same peak torque, same transmission and all that. So I'm doubting you're going to notice the difference. After all, we're talking about less than 1% difference in power here. So if you can feel that, well, hats off to you. Besides, it's a huge difference between this and the 2-liter engine. This makes 113 more horsepower and 116 more pound-feet of torque. So yeah, you can notice that difference. And it's not just the peak outputs that make the difference here. You make all 376 pound-feet of torque from just 1,300 RPM. And that holds on all the way to 4,500 RPM. So you have a nice broad peak torque band that really drives mid-range power. But to be entirely fair to the 2-liter powertrain, that does weigh nearly 300 pounds less than this V6. So you're going to get a lot of weight off of the front end, and that's going to help turn in performance and make the car feel a little bit more light and lively. So if handling and chassis dynamics are more important to you, maybe you don't mind having a little bit less power, and weight to power ratio isn't quite so bad as the horsepower figures would make you think, because you do have much less weight. All this talk about powertrain makes me want to show you what this thing is like to accelerate, and spoiler alert, it's good. Let me show you. All right, time for a quick acceleration test. I've got the car in Sport Plus mode, and I'm gonna give it a bit of brake torque, and off we go. Tiny bit of tire squeal right there. Whoa, jeez, man. Whoa, goodness, man. Wow, this Genesis G70 can hustle. Oh my goodness. That is properly quick. 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds if you have the rear-wheel drive version with launch control. I can't imagine this is far behind, because this is all-wheel drive traction, and man, you just get moving. Wow, that is seriously good, seriously impressive. And nice snarl from the V6 as well. Man, yeah, wholly impressed. Very, very nice acceleration from the Genesis G70 3.3T with all-wheel drive. But obviously I've used the term compact sports sedan more than once. It's not just about going quickly in a straight line. It's very important to know how this car handles. So I put something together there as well. Let me show you that. All right, guys, time for a quick handling test. I've got the car in Sport Plus mode. I've got the seat nice and comfortable for me. Let's go ahead and give it a shot. Not a ton of grip, but nice precise steering, good quick steering rack. I like that part. Definitely staying in a low gear, plenty high revs here. Oh man, yeah, staying in very high revs. Steering feels good. Body control is reasonable. It's certainly not the tightest sports sedan kind of feeling, but it's certainly competitive with the other standard sports sedans out there. And remember, this is not the most performance version with adjustable shock absorbers, and that would make a big difference. Okay, we're gonna put it back in comfort mode to calm the engine down a little bit. Yeah, you know, really pretty darn reasonable considering everything. This is a competitive, solid car. The steering feel is really good. The throttle was very quick in the Sport Plus mode, but it was easy enough to modulate, and I appreciated that that also turned the stability control into a sport mode, so you had less interruptions there. The V6, we were kept in a high gear, so we had plenty of punch coming out of the corners, plenty of exit speed, and I also liked the seats held me in place pretty darn well. It wasn't a lot of grip, and definitely the front axle gave up first, but that might be one advantage of the 2-liter engine. If you really want like a lively front end, the 4-cylinder engine is a good 300 pounds less nearly than this V6, and that might make a big difference. But overall, I have to say I'm very pleased with the way this car drives. It is fully competent and a bit enjoyable as well. Totally competitive in the compact sports sedan class. So it's kind of in between, right? And I think if you had the adaptable suspension system, the adjustable shock absorbers, that would help body control a lot, and that would probably mitigate some of the understeer as well. But even all that said, it was still pretty darn decent fun. I had good responses from the steering, and the power exiting out of the corners certainly wasn't bad. And in addition to be pretty darn decent fun around some country roads, it's got a very pleasant ride. You know, it handles bumps and heaves in the road with no problem at all, and you've also got good wind noise isolation, good road noise isolation, plenty of options that are easy to use with the center console touchscreen, comfortable seats, and you know, it's just a generally nice place to be. And that's true on the interstate as well. I took it out there for a moment. Let me show you that. On the interstate with the Genesis G70, and I have to say it's pretty darn pleasant in here. Wind noise is nicely isolated, road noise is nicely isolated, and it's very comfortable in here. We do have adaptive cruise control, and in addition to that, we have something that Genesis calls highway driving assist. Now, it's not super cruise level of driving assistance, but it is lane centering and adaptive cruise control kind of combined, right? So I'll go ahead and give it a try. And it is set. Now, key difference with highway driving assist, it will tug on the wheel to keep you centered in the lane even if there's a curve, but you got to keep your hands on the wheel. If you take your hands off the wheel for even just a few seconds, it'll start complaining. So right now I've got a green little steering wheel showing me that everything's okay, but if I take my hands off the wheel, it doesn't take long for it to say, put your hands on the wheel. But it is, my hands are off and it is making a curve right now. Oh, and it's not complaining that my hands are on the wheel yet either. Huh? How about that? It's a little bit on the jerky side. There's the warning, keep your hands on the wheel. It's a little bit on the jerky side. You can tell that it doesn't have as much information as it would like to stay nicely centered and be a little bit more subtle about it, but it did functionally work. And even if your hands are on the wheel, it'll tug on you just a little bit to keep you centered. Just more generally, this is a very pleasant highway cruiser, and I'm very happy with how it performs on the interstate. So yeah, very pleasant place to be. Comfortable seats, easy to use, center console touchscreen, just generally nice place to be. And of course, you also have tons of safety systems. You have a lot of driver assist stuff. I'll put those up on the screen right now. You also have 8 airbags, so lots of cushioning to keep you safe in case you do end up in an accident. All the things you'd expect in a car in this class. So overall, I don't know if you're picking up on a theme here, but this G70 is pretty darn competitive in all the areas that you'd expect a premium compact car to be. Handles with precision and competently, good body control, good ride, good luxury appointments, looks the part. But there is one thing where this Genesis is not at all like the others, and that is the price. 45 grand for a car like this these days is bargain basement numbers, and it doesn't feel bargain basement at all. The fit and finish in this is just as good. The stitching you see here, just as good. The leathers feel just as nice, just as soft. The widescreen touchscreen, the screen with the instrument cluster, all the switch gear, it's all there at a price that's just thousands of dollars less than everything else out there. Hats off to Hyundai here. I think they've done a fantastic job with their new premium car brand, and I think this G70 is the best example of that premium car brand. I'm Robin Warner. Thank you for watching. And if you are still watching, I'd really appreciate it if you like this video and subscribe to my channel. Those two things really do help me out a lot. Okay, goodbye. And it's time to go. Woo, and we're going. Whoa.